One of the most important chapters of content as we are digging through Think and Grow Rich. Chapter 9, Persistence. And the fun of this for me is, man, I tend to be the poster child of this. Just continue to grind and grind and grind until you get to where you want to go. Never letting it go, never backing down. And yet the author had some incredible stories, examples, and notes on how to make this happen. So as always, it's your room, not mine. Celeste, your mic is hot. Does that mean you want to talk right now? Look at her sprint back real quick. Ah!
I could add to this. I think, well, give me a sec here. Why don't you hop on to somebody else and I'll come back to you.
You got it. So Doug, the floor is yours.
On the first page of this chapter, it's like in my book, it's the first word and the bottom line. I just put those together. It says persistence is the quality to the character of man like carbon is to steel. So this is what gives us strength. This is what gives us the ability to go through the criticisms and the failures and everything else that you have to go through to win. It said there was just a lot of great quotes in this chapter. It talks about the test that we're all going to face as we're going towards our goals. And the test is that of persistence. Are we going to stay with it, or are we going to give up? Are we going to quit? And I like also on the second page, it says the first test as to your persistence will come when you begin to follow the 6 steps described in chapter 2. So if you don't do those, you got to go back and do those. If you haven't done them, go back and do them.
Fun part about that, going on beyond that, if you're following this book with the intention of applying the knowledge it conveys, your first test as to your persistence will come when you begin to follow those 6 steps. You'll notice the author is holding you accountable. So page 26, because I documented it. Fix your mind on the exact amount of money you desire to make. Determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money. Establish a definite date for when that money's going to show up. Create a definite plan for how to make it happen. Write out a clear and concise statement on that, and then read it aloud twice a day. Hold up your statements, people. You should have them right there. You should already have done this. Mine is my bookmark, so I have no choice but to read it twice a day. And if you haven't, go back to that chapter on desire, find those 6 steps, and implement. Celeste, are you ready to go now, or am I going to Julianne?
Well, you can go with me. One thing I saw that I really appreciated, this idea of the strength of a mastermind. They said, obviously, one person's, they used a battery as an example. Using a battery's energy, it's strong, it's by itself. But the more batteries you add together, the stronger the whole force is. And I was like, I was likening it to this group, that I have learned a lot about others. I've learned a lot about myself, and I feel stronger because I'm sitting in this room, staying in a good mindset. Half the battle we have sometimes is we're not hearing the good stuff. We're hearing all the bad. And it's not just about this business, but in general, life is sometimes, things are not going our way. And I feel this is such a positive place. The idea of being persistent is being around people that are going in the same direction you are.
Absolutely. This is our mastermind, isn't it, Celeste?
Mm-hmm.
This is our mastermind on personal and business development, on how to get better every single day. Julianne?
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Yeah, this is a chapter to be fired up about, because again, he's bringing back, like you said, to chapter 2. Like the author mentions, like you need to go back now and read chapter 2 again. And it's like, okay, yeah, wow, a whole chapter on desire, now on persistence. And here he gives us the key here. I've got like words circled on a page. There's the definite goal, the definite plan. The intensity of one's desire, I think, is really key here, because that's the persistence. So the persistence, the stronger the desire. And I wrote it here, fire it up. And then he went on to say, a small amount of fire creates a small amount of heat. So much like what Celeste is talking about so far as the intensifying with intention, it is our choice. But I think the key here in this particular paragraph, the starting point of all achievement is desire. Keep this constantly in mind. Weak desire brings weak results, and just a small amount of fire makes a small amount of heat. If you find yourself lacking persistence, this weakness may be remedied by building a stronger fire under your desire. This is, I wrote here, it's your choice. You get to choose. You choose the remedy. You're taking the pill. You're being prescriptive about what it is that you are doing and working with the intention. So we get to, it's like when we talked about yesterday, the founding fathers, they're committing treason. And then why can't we do this in our own daily business? It's right there. We haven't built a strong enough fire of desire. What if it doesn't work for me if I do, my business? What does it work? What happens to you guys if you don't do real estate? Oh, I just go get another job. And so long as you have the mentality that there's a backup plan, you will never have the desire intensified enough to keep you persistent. The founding fathers had to be persistent for a very, very, very long time in order to achieve their goal, because their goal was huge. But you know what? The purpose behind it, their desire, was even bigger. So it didn't matter the obstacles that they came across. So you have to have a desire. And I'm going to talk softly now because this involves my husband. When I went to Tony Robbins, I'm like, we have a comfortable life. We've never really had that need. But when you dig deeper and deeper and deeper into your why, not like, oh, I want to pay my bills, or, oh, I want to retire my husband. Well, you know what? As Tony Robbins was NLPing us to death, we had, I had my first true deep desire revealed. And that is, the stress of my husband's job is killing him. If I don't replace his income and then some, I will lose him early due to stress. And so it is literally stealing away minutes, hours, days, and years with my loved one. That's
So here's the fun part.
Wow.
If we look at the founding fathers, we look at what Julianne has just put in the room. This is the motivation of the founding fathers. The founding fathers had Cortez as kind of their touchstone, if you will, the model to follow. When Cortez discovered Mexico, he ordered his troops to go out to the ocean and light all of their boats on fire. You've heard the story of burning the boats. This is where it came from. So now they're standing on the beach facing the Aztec army, the most fierce fighting force in existence. And they have two choices: win or die. The founding fathers had two choices because they put their names right on the paper: win or
Yep.
die. If you truly understood staying on the path you're on is going to end in your demise, you'll be one of those, if you're not building your financial life, who winds up where at some point your physical ability to do the work stops and you do not have the funds to live the life you desire anymore. And now you're just waiting for death to show up at your door. Guys, I know so many people who have lived this the wrong way. And here's the key: the moment you need the money, it's too late. And you got to get on fire about that. Julianne, do you have my cell phone number? I'm going to post it in for everybody. After this, I want you to call me, okay? Awesome. All right. I saw Alicia. Your mic was hot. What do you got?
So I was just going to say that it's kind of hard to get into the life or death mindset over real estate. However, everything you said kind of like overrode that because it does become like the life you want or suffering, suffering through and just making it through and continuing on that same path. But I was also going to say that there's so much negative talk around real estate that it's hard to fan those flames, to fan those flames of desire. And I think that's why this room has completely made the difference for me. It has made real estate fun. I don't hate getting on the phones. It completely changed everything, 100%. And the flames are being fanned, and I'm not even sure I'm the one who's fanning them or if it's you guys.
Well, I promise you're fanning them internally, Alicia, and yet we're all helping. We're all helping, okay? That being said, I want to go back to what you opened with. This life and death isn't. I can prove to you it is. By show of hands, how many are you getting out of this life alive? Death is showing up one way or another. And there is window of time of death. We fear death showing up without us knowing it, yet most of the time that's what happens. Imagine being at that moment and having regrets that you didn't take the action you know you should be taking. That book is on our reading list for down the road, The 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bonnie Ware, where she was a hospice nurse for 30 years, hanging out with people in the last moments of their life when they came to the realization there was nothing else they could do. And they got to realize the things that they missed. And by the way, not a single one of them regretted taking action. Not a single one of them regretted being uncomfortable. It was actually the life of complacency in many aspects that showed up. Miss Celeste, I see your mic is on.
So for all of us who were able to meet up with Jean Fredericks yesterday, if you weren't in the room, I really have to add, you missed such an amazing, powerful message. And one of the things he talked about was talking to people and telling stories. And the reason why he was so sure that our message is missing the story is that he said, you would be amazed at something as simple as he had recruited a couple just going to a cocktail party he didn't want to go to. And that was back in 2011, 2015, I don't remember. But what he did say was even just the conversation that he had with them was so powerful. He, at that time, had recruited them to the company he was with, which was KW. And just 4 short years later, he had another conversation with them about the reasons why they needed to be at EXP. And that couple, now fast forward to fairly recent, like something just, it was, unfortunately, it was the, one of them had passed away. And the man was talking about his wife and that she passed away. And he had talked about the journey of the last couple of years of her life. And that if he had not moved to EXP and gotten into attraction, he wouldn't have been able to spend the last concentrated 2 years of her life caring for her, because that made all the difference. And as he's speaking about this, her story of her life, they have a name for it, I can't think of it.
Yep.
He actually said, he just called out and said, I have Jean and Susan, that's his wife, to thank for changing our lives, even if it was the last 2 years of my wife's life. And it was like, wow, what a story. And if you can't think about those kinds of things, why did you move?
Well, here's what I want to think about is how it ties into the content, because that's what we're talking about here. And
Okay.
again, those individuals had gotten really focused on the one thing for them of building a business, of building an operation, an organization. And because they had been that persistent, when the problem showed up, they had the revenue coming in. And I want to go back one more step, though, to Gene's persistence. His persistence about caring enough about people to stay in conversations. His persistence of continuing to follow up and follow up and follow up and follow up, even when they don't return calls, even when they don't return texts. And we all have clients and or partners like that in our world. And yet, because of his persistence, their life was radically altered. Your persistence is going to be a wave that affects so many other people than just yourself if you stay on it and keep it going. So what else do you guys have related to chapter 9, persistence? There's a lot of good nuggets in there. Doug, floor is yours.
I got
brother.
another one.
Go for it.
It says fortunes gravitate to men prepared to attract them. That is a very, very powerful statement. And we use that word attraction a lot. It says, as surely as water gravitates to the ocean. And that's a great mind picture. So fortunes gravitate to men that are prepared to attract them. That's what we're doing in this room. That's what we're doing by building our businesses. That's what we're doing every day when we add that one little new piece, that one part of the system that's broken that needs to be fixed, that new thing that comes along that we have to decide whether or not we're going to use that or not. It's a constant thing for us. So I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yes, so many opportunities are going through this content to improve ourselves to truly be that magnet of all we desire. Nafritha, you're up.
I want to piggyback off what Doug just said, because I was literally looking at poverty is attracted to the one whose mind is favorable to it, as money is attracted to one whose mind has been deliberately prepared to attract it. And that stood out to me because it's just a reminder, like, you got to do something to get something. And you can get something from doing nothing, but the question is, what will that be, right? But it's like a constant reminder of doing the work. Like he constantly says, if we don't do everything, if we don't apply, if we don't do this, we will not see the change. And I thought that was so powerful. It says the starting point of all achievement is desire, right? So kind of going back, of what Julianne was saying, like that burning desire. How do we identify that thing? How do we find that thing that gives us that, oh my God, I gotta get up and do this, right? How do we dig deep and, identify what that thing is, which I think they kind of mentioned, or, something to encourage or to finding ways, and like tell you, go back and read the previous chapters. Another thing that stood out to me was, without persistence, you will be defeated even before you start. So that was another nugget that stuck with me. Like, kind of like know that there's going to be hurdles, right? Know it's going to be rocky. Know it's going to be tough. But if you make that decision in the beginning, like, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to keep going. No matter what, I'm going to get up. No matter what, I'm going to keep trying. I think you've already won then, right? It goes back to that mindset. If you already know and believe it, and you know that you're willing to do the work that's going to achieve that thing, then technically you're successful, right? You already got it. But
So I want to
every
go back
failure
here.
brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. That's what I wanted to leave with us all. Every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. So it's not really a failure. We're just growing.
So I want to go back though to the poverty piece, because you brought that in, and it's really key that we understand this, because you talked about poverty is attracted to the one whose mind is favorable to it. The next sentence though, poverty consciousness, a focus on what's missing, on what's wrong, on being in a place of lack. Poverty consciousness will voluntarily seize the mind which is not occupied with the money consciousness. You've got to actively work on your money mindset, knowing that it is good, knowing that it is there to serve you and help you to get out of the poverty.
You shut my door, Leeds.
Most of us have. Mark, the floor is yours. Oh.
So what I love everything you guys are saying, and I started at the starting point of achievement is desire. Keep this constantly in your mind. Weak desires bring weak results. And it goes back to what you said, what you just read, Coach, that and one of the things that I see people get tripped up on is the money consciousness part, because they think that they're not supposed to make a lot of money. So two things I want to share with that. Number one, I remember when I went to Brian Buffini years ago, and he was telling us all about, the same things that we're reading. We read the same book. And he said that poor is a state of mind, broke is a state of account. So at the time I'm broke and I thought I was poor. He said, no, you're not poor. You just don't have any money in your bank account, but your mindset is strong, and your mind needs to be set on money, not for greed reasons, because you need to make a lot of money to be in this business. And then fast forward, I listened to Mo Anderson one time, and she said, I need to make a lot of money, because I'm going to do a lot of good with that money. She was one that started Red Day, where we were giving back. The whole company was giving back to the community on that Red Day. And so when I read this, we all have to make sure that we understand that I believe with all my heart, we all need to make a lot of money, because I believe that your hearts are pure and you guys are going to do amazing things with that money. And we have to take that negative that the culture told us that we can't have money because we're greedy or capitalists, all that stuff. That is a bunch of crap. We all need lots of money because there's people around us that are going to benefit from that. And here's the other thing is, if you don't make that money, you're not going to be able to help them. So I feel like in that case, you're actually not only cheating yourself, but you're cheating these people, these amazing people around you that need that money from you, that they're not going to get anywhere else but from you, in my opinion.
Yeah, how powerful that there are people waiting for you to become successful so you can help them. And they exist out there ready to go. You got to do your part. Jeanette, I know you've been waiting. What do you have?
I want to go right along with that the poor mindset and poor consciousness is, oh, I can't get a break. People are saying, well, this one got a break and that one got a break. Breaks can be made to order. And that fits in with fortunes gravitate to people whose minds have been prepared to attract them. It also goes, the examples in here are of W.C. Fields, who was broke during the Depression and 60 years old, still trying to be a comedian. And he knew that if he carried on, he would get the breaks sooner or later. And he did get them, not by chance. Marie Dressler, her money was gone. Again, 60. That speaks to a lot of us. We think we have to be young to get a break. And that by the time we get to be the age that many of us are, or the age range that many of us are in this room, that we, they're retired, that's it. And how many, we look around, and by the time they get, this refers to 60, how many people are going retired, and people are asking, it's like, so are you thinking about retirement? I'm going, why would I do that? Other than I want provision. If retirement means I have provision, then sure, I think about that. But that's not what I'm thinking about. I'm still thinking growth, a lot of growth. So, and then it goes, the only break anyone can afford to rely upon is a self-made break. Well, that also comes from fortunes gravitating to the people whose minds have been prepared to attract them. You know that you're in the right direction. So when that door opens, you have that gut know about whether that's the right one to go through or not. And sometimes you just go through it. And then it goes into the next part, which is how to master difficulties, what mystical power gives the persistence. And God knows, the divine intelligence knows, you get what you think. Everything we have been teaching is you get what you think, and you get what you think you deserve, and just because something hard comes in the middle of that, I deserve it. I don't, I want to be worthy of it more than I want to deserve it.
So let's end with this, because it's one of my favorites. This author spent 20 years studying people who made massive success out of their life. And to quote, "I found no quality save persistence that even remotely suggested the major source of their stupendous achievements." Stay on it, stay at it, and watch the magic happen. The moment you think it's time to give up is the moment it's time to double down on your efforts